Hello, you're watching Avenue X, and today let's continue exploring the game Black Myth Wukong in its Chapter 3's glory, the biggest map among the 6 chapters of the whole game. 夜生, Baidu, White Snow, Ice Cold. As usual, to tackle this really long chapter, we will first talk about what it's based on in the original novel, 西游记. Then I'll talk about for the gameplay, what's the rough power and world structure. Then I'll still run through the game, which is a very long run through, and trying to not forget any important characters. And finally, as usual, the animation. So let's go straight into 西游记's original novel, and that will be chapter 65 and 66. In chapter 65, it was at the beginning of spring. They traveled to a very, very tall and beautiful mountain. They're very close to their destination, Lingshan, the Ling mountain. As they were gazing at a faraway temple, Sun Wukong could tell its vibe is not right. And Tang is just a mortal. He thought, oh, that might be the temple we're heading towards, our destiny, where supposedly Buddha is at. 雷音寺, thunder sound, temple. In the game, it gets translated into Thunderclap. Sun Wukong told Tang Seng, it's not Lingshan. I've been there. It doesn't look like that. Monk is like, well, it's still a temple, so we have to go in and pay respect. As they arrive at this temple, Tang Seng saw the name written at the front gate. It does say 雷音寺, and he started to scold Sun Wukong immediately. You are lying to me, you monkey. And Sun Wukong just calmly smiled. Take another look. Tang Monk took another look. It said 小雷音寺, means small or little Thunderclap temple. So it's not the one they're going to. And Tang Monk is just really stubborn. He's like, okay, so this is not the one, but it's small one, so I still have to go in. So they all enter this temple. There are many monks well dressed, there are many Buddha statues, and actually somebody was sitting on a lotus seat and calling, oh, you monks from the east, why don't you come in and pay respect? And everyone else on the team is slightly scared by the grandeur of the temple and how many people are there, so they're all just like bowing down to all statues. And Sun Wukong wasn't doing it because he could tell it's wrong. And then those monks started questioning Sun Wukong, why don't you bow down? He's like, you are a yaojing. So he took out his staff and started chopping down people, and immediately those monks turned back to their original form where they're all actually yaojing. And suddenly a huge symbol dropped out of sky and then encased Sun Wukong in it. The little Yao Guais all came out and grabbed onto the other 3 and tied them up. And supposedly this symbol, when it encases something, it will turn you into a pool of blood and pus in 3 days. And Sun Wukong is indestructible, but he couldn't get out. When he turned himself into a gigantic thing, the symbol will expand with him. When he shrinks himself down to a tiny, tiny little speck, the symbol will also follow him. No matter what he does, it just doesn't yield and give him even one crack to open it up. He resolved to chanting a mantra and calling all the helps he could get. All those daily shift deities, all those Dharma protectors who are supposed to be 24/7 on watch for this whole traveling pack. And they all tried to figure out how to open this sealed symbol, and they couldn't get it open. So parts of them stayed to make sure that the monk and all the other team members wouldn't get harmed, and the rest went up to Celestial Palace and then talked to Jade Emperor. Jade Emperor then decided to send the 28 constellation deities down to help. If you want to know more details about these characters, go and check out my earlier video talking about the cosmology of 西游记. These 28 star constellations came down. Among them, there's only one who figured out a way he thought he could try out. And this would be Kang Loong, the Kang dragon, one major character you're gonna fight in the game, chapter 3. It's pretty clear that he's a man, but in the game, it gets shifted into a woman. This dragon has a horn, and it's a magical horn that can shrink and also expand in size. So he shrunk his horn to a tiny, tiny needle and then poked it really hard into the crack of the symbol. But the symbol is really weird. When he grows his horn, it does not just push it open. The symbol wraps itself around the horn and expands with the horn, still not giving any opening. Sun Wukong inside the symbol thought of an idea. So he shrunk his magical staff and drill a tiny, tiny hole into the horn of the dragon. Then Sun Wukong shrunk himself into a tiny, tiny bit and then hit into that hole he just dug into Kang Jinlong's horn. Kang Jinlong tried his best and got his horn out. So together with the horn that got out of the symbol, Sun Wukong jumped out of it, using his staff and then knocked on the symbol and broke it into pieces. The noise was so loud that it woke up the Huang, the king of the Yao. Then Sun Wukong, the 28 constellation deities, and the previous Dharma protector deities, they all flew up to the sky. And the Yaoguai king rushed out after them, and that would be Huang Mei, Yellow Brow. He called himself Huang Mei Lao Fu, Yellow Brow Old Buddha. So he granted himself the Buddha title and saying, I have already gotten enlightenment, and this grand temple is what has been given to me. In one of his hands, he holds his weapon, which is a many-spiked mace. And with the other hand, untied a white cloth bag on his waist and threw it in the sky and then start to suck everything in, including Sun Wukong, the 28 constellation deities, and all the other daily shift helping deities. He took the bag back into his cave, took all the people out of the bag one by one, and tied them up one by one individually. That night, Sun Wukong waited till everybody is quiet. He shrunk again himself and got out of the rope, and then untied his Shifu, the pig, the Sha monk, all the other deities and constellation deities, and got even the horse. He asked all these people to take Tangsen away first. He has to go back and then get the luggage, because in their luggage there are all those treasures. He transformed himself into a bat and flew into the cave where this Yaoguai king is asleep. He found the luggage, but just before he could take it, he made a noise that woke the Yaoguai. And because of the bag that can take in everything, he didn't want to take the risk. So he dropped the luggage and ran away. After daybreak, he found the 28 constellation deities and all the other people. He decided to regroup and then come back. Yellowbrow got 4,000-5,000 little Yaos fighting for him. Yellowbrow came out again with his bag and started to sucking everyone. Sun Wukong was fast to see that, and because he had somersault cloud, he immediately jumped onto his cloud and somersaulted away. So he's the only one who didn't get taken in, and everyone else, including his Shifu and the pig and every constellation deities and Dharma protectors, they got taken in by the bag again. And now it's only Sun Wukong outside, and he decided, I have to go and look for help. And he set his destination to the 北方真武大帝, the northern 真武 emperor, another very important Taoism emperor in Wudangshan, which is in China, Hubei, the hub for Taoism practices. Chapter 66 starts with Sun Wukong arrived at Zheng Wu Dadi's place and told him what has happened. And Zheng Wu Dadi is like, right now I have something I am engaged with, I cannot leave. I will send my trusted generals, 龟蛇二将, the turtle and the snake general, plus 五大神龙, the 5 magical dragons. So the snake, the turtle, the 5 dragons, and Sun Wukong got back to Xiaolin Si. There's another big battle. Guess what happened? Huang Mei's bag took everybody in again, apart from Sun Wukong, because he is now very experienced and he knows when is the time to escape. As Sun Wukong is troubled by how he's gonna defeat this Yellowbrow, the daily shift deities, who I guess didn't get captured, or maybe it's the new one for today, not the day before, came to him and told him, well, maybe you should go and find 大圣国师王菩萨, which is a bodhisattva. He is living in a mountain called Xuyi, and supposedly one of his disciples is really good at fighting, and his team has recently just tamed a very difficult Yaoguai. So Sun Wukong went to Xuyi mountain, and this bodhisattva is like, I am also engaged with something, I cannot go with you myself. I will send my most trusted student, who would be Xiao Zhang Taizi. Literally would mean small Zhang surname. Taizi is crown prince. So that's a really weird way of calling a crown prince. Young Mr. Zhang, crown prince. Anyway, Xiao Zhang Taizi is a son of a kingdom called Liu Shaguo, flowing sand. So now you can connect to the second chapter and see how they made up the story. In the book setting, he's just a prince, was very sick when he was young as a kid, and he got cured by this bodhisattva's pill. And afterwards, he decided to give up inheritance of the throne and become a full cultivator, although he still calls himself Xiao Zhang Taizi. The crown prince Xiao Zhang has 4 subordinate generals under him, and these 4 generals and this crown prince will also show up in our game, with Sun Wukong again going to confront Huang. And guess what happens? The bag took everybody in, apart from the very agile Sun Wukong. What happened to Sun Wukong then? It's a bit weird when you think about that, but really in the book, if you go and read the original novel of Xiao, you'll find there are many chapters when he eventually ran out of options. He will just climb up a mountain and start to cry like a baby. Somehow I find that's really adorable. Anyway, so while he's like crying his eyeballs out, suddenly, a colorful cloud dropped out of the sky and somebody came out of the cloud. Guess who? 弥勒菩萨 or 弥勒佛, Maitreya Buddha, future Buddha, or you can call him Bodhisattva, however, because it's the quantum state of being a Buddha but not being a Buddha at the same time. If you want to know more about this really interesting Buddhism character, go and check out my cosmology video. I went into detail about who this Buddha is and what is his origin in more than one religions actually in the world. Sun Wukong is like, oh, 弥勒, Buddha, you finally came. Tell me who this guy is. He's so strong, this yellow brow. And 弥勒is a little bit apologetic. Actually, he is my servant. He's a young kid who serves under me, and his job is literally to knock on my sounding stone. The weapon he has, which is the mace, is actually the hammer that he uses to knock on my music instrument. I need to go to a big meeting, and after I left, my little servant stole my treasure, which is the symbol and also the bag, and he also took that hammer and he ran away. He got to the mortal human realm and then built himself an empire. And because time flows differently in the celestial palace realm and the human realm, so it hasn't been that long for Maitreya Buddha when he went to that meeting, but it has been a long time now in the human world. And here he actually told Sun Wukong the bag's name is 人种蛋, literally means human breed or human seed. Bag. There's description in the novel that talks about if you get sucked into the bag, if you get out, what you will look like. You will have all your skins looking really wrinkled. There have been many interpretations in literature criticism about this part of the book, what it actually refers to. A lot of sexual references. So think about the bag actually as the womb, and the mace as you can imagine like what that could be. Anyway, Maitreya Buddha just has really weird treasures, and he's like, I would apologize because I didn't take good care of my subordinates, but on the other hand, you and your shifu and your team, you also have your own karma you haven't dealt with, therefore this is happening. I will come with you. We will create a watermelon field. You lure him into the field, you turn into the ripened watermelon yourself, and I'll trick him to eat it. That just sounds really, really familiar. Where did we see that before? Chapter 1, Black Wind Mountain. Sun Wukong said, okay, I can go, but first I have to avoid the bag thing, and then I also have to figure out a way to make sure that he will definitely come with me. Maitreya Buddha in the book then dipped his fingers in his own saliva and then wrote a character in the palm of Sun Wukong, which is 禁, means forbid. Just show your palm with its character to Yellowbrow and he will come with you. So Sun Wukong went there, knocked on Yellowbrow's door and said, I want to fight with you. Can you even win the fight with me without using your stupid bag? And that really made Yellowbrow quite angry. He's like, okay, I'll fight you without the bag. So they came out and they fought for quite a while. Sun Wukong just showed his palm to this Yao Guai, and suddenly he just kind of got dazed and then followed Sun Wukong. So Sun Wukong lured him to this watermelon field. He transformed himself into a ripened melon, where Maitreya Buddha, is already a melon farmer in the field. And the Yao Guai has run a long way, so he got thirsty. He asked the melon farmer, do you have a ripened melon? And obviously Maitreya Buddha just grabbed Sun Wukong and then gave it to Yellowbrow. Yellowbrow ate it, and obviously it ends up in his stomach, and Sun Wukong did his usual pole dancing and hitting everything inside. Yellowbrow couldn't stand the pain, and Maitreya Buddha showed up in his real form. Sun Wukong came out of him. Maitreya Buddha took the bag and then sucked his servant boy into the bag, and it's done. He also asked Sun Wukong, I have another treasure that this kid stole, which is my symbol. Where is it? And Sun Wukong, unfortunately, I broke it into pieces. Sun Wukong took him back into Huang Mei's place. Along the way, he killed 500 to 700 little Yao Guais. Maitreya Buddha was just like standing on the side and not really saying anything or doing anything or stopping him. Just let him do all his murdering. Like it happens in Xiao all the time. Found the broken pieces of the golden symbol, and then Maitreya Buddha just blew a wind on it, and it went back to its original form intact. Sun Wukong then went to untie his Shifu, the pig, the other monk, got his horse back. Bajie, the pig, had been tied up for days and not eating anything, and he's starving. So the first thing he did when he got untied was rushing into the kitchen and found all the left food in a wok, and he ate half of it himself and then took out the rest, gave that to his Shifu and other people to eat. It's classic of Bajie. And then Sun Wukong went down to the cellar, let everybody out, including, okay, we have to count how many people. The snake, the turtle general, the 5 dragons under them, the Zhang crown prince, the 4 generals under him, the 28 constellation deities, and all the daily shifts and dharma protectors. So that's like adding up properly to 50 people. And he never forgets then to take the horse and feed the horse. No matter how big a battle has happened in the chapter, at the end of it, it's always they eat, they sleep, they feed the horse, and they go on their way. Before he left the place, he set fire to the little Thunderclap temple and burned everything to the ground. And that would be the end of chapter 66. Pretty simply, chapter 3 of the game is based on the characters from these 2 chapters of the novel. Yellowbrow, Kang Loong, Melon, and all the other helpers. We would also come across Melon teaching Sun Wukong the 禁自觉, which in the novel never actually fully gets explained. Why the character forbid when Huang sees it will get into this trance state and allow Sun Wukong to take him to the melon field. There's one interpretation that's out there, which is actually Huang getting out of hand is in a way planned by Maitreya, so that there could be an obstacle in the human realm that's already been set up for the team of Journey to the West to encounter that counts towards their KPI, the difficulties they've gone through. They have to go through 81 challenges and obstacles to eventually get Buddha's teaching. That's supposedly how the script is set up. So it could be that actually Maitreya, Buddha, and Huang are just playing. Therefore, they probably have a code word. So whenever Yellowbrow sees the character Jing, who would understand, oh, this is the time where I have to go and meet my Shifu and get this whole plot sorted out. So that's always been an interpretation. It never could be confirmed exactly how it works. As for the game, they designed this to be a new magic you can get that actually restrict all the transformations, all the invisibility, the immobilizing, the spells that you can have. You only have your physical staff, and that's the only thing you can rely on to hit on your enemy to win the battle. And it's a really interesting way of using the original material and put a spin on it and make it function for the gameplay. In the gameplay, when you open up the 禁自觉, the spell binder, you will have your physical hitting of the staff's power increasing by quite a big number. Some people tested it, can go up to like 5 times, so your hit every time is like 5 times as stronger. I'm not sure if exactly that's how the number would play out, but it will increase your just physical attack power. Now let's briefly talk about what is the story of chapter 3 in the game. Unlike the rewriting and a lot of details of chapter 2 that I spent a lot of time talking about. For chapter 3, the overall setup is very simple and linear. It still takes place a couple of 100 years after the ending of Journey to the West, and supposedly Sun Wukong is already dead, and he got rounded up by the Celestial Palace, the Lingshan, and got defeated by the combination of all the major Yao kings he encountered on his way of Journey to the West, including chapter 1 Bear, chapter 2 the Rat, now chapter 3 Yellowbrow. So Yellowbrow also took part in the battle against Sun Wukong, and at the end of it, by winning, he got rewarded with another relic from Sun Wukong, the nose. In the game, it's called Hubris Nose, 鼻秀爱. After he took this relic, somehow he managed to slip away under Maitreya Buddha's eyes again and went down to the human realm and decided to rebuild his previous glory, created another temple because he's so proud of himself, thinking that he is just as good and as entitled as any Buddha. Because Buddha's temple is called Lenyinsi, therefore he would call his temple Xiao Lenyinsi. And to do that, he had to get a lot of servants, a lot of people under him trusting in him. So he became pretty much a cult leader and in many ways Ponzi scheme runner to brainwash, coerce, and gaslight everybody he comes across. So he got a lot of support, a lot of people who believe in his power. Yellowbrow's land is not pure land, it's built upon lies lies and murders and exploitations and enslavement. Yellowbrow, on one hand, is always debating with Jing Chanzi, Tang Seng's real form. On the other hand, he probably is always feeling insecure, because he's not technically a proper disciple of Maitreya Buddha, he's only a servant. Jing Chanzi is known to be a really good student, and he's good at debate. Because Tang Seng, in real history, is one of the debate masters of Buddhism history. So I guess game science also used that to set up Jing Chanzi and Huang Mei's relationship. To add on to that, Yellowbrow is even crazy about the fact that everything that Jing Chanzi or Tang Monk has, I will need to have too. So he ended up getting 4 of his disciples, exactly mirroring or oppositing what Tang Seng has. So his students are called 不空, 不能, 不净, 不白, as the opposite of the 4 disciples of Jing Chanzi / Tang Seng, which is 悟空, 悟能, Wu Jing, and Bai Long Ma, the white dragon horse. Huang Mei even managed to brainwash Cyan Loong, which was a helper, a good friend of Sun Wukong, who saved him from the symbol in the original novel. Now in the game, first gender changed, and then she actually called Huang Mei her shifu, such as the 赤尻马侯. And he actually used to be a general serving under Sun Wukong. After Sun Wukong's death, got in some really bad situations and survived some really terrible things that actually happens in chapter 5's place. He escaped, managed to survive, and then found Yellowbrow and got brainwashed by Yellowbrow and believed in Yellowbrow's beliefs and decided to stay at the Thunderclap temple and serve as his servant. So what does Yellowbrow actually believe in, or what is his cult beliefs in? He basically is flipping Buddhism the other way around. He advocates indulging in all the worldly pleasures and desires instead of the precepts, instead of the vows, instead of the things that controls your behaviors and tame your ego. He is talking about let it run wild, instant gratification, carnal pleasure, and then do whatever you want, even if that is murder other people, hurt other people. If you believe it's good, then I like you and I'll take you in as my student. Now let's get to the third part of this video, running through the game. I have to admit, while I was playing chapter 3, I was like 道心破碎. My cultivation heart is broken because I was running in this huge map and I'm like, where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to do? Is there something I missed? In a snowy landscape, it's beautiful, but it's exhausting, even when you're just running with your controller. Before we start that though, I would mention, I apologize, I forgot to mention a key character you'll come across in chapter 2 in last video, which is 虚狗, 虚 dog. He is the same as the first chapter, 生猴, Shen monkey. In chapter 1, you get 生猴, giving you the ability to upgrade your drinks. Second chapter, you start to be able to make 丹药, the furnace that creates those pellets or pills to give you superpowers. And that needs to be done by 虚狗, the 虚 dog. Once you open the function, you can do it at the shrine. But he will be able to do the permanent upgrades that you cannot do by yourself. So this is the second character of the Zodiac 12 animals you're gonna meet. You have 2 more, and you're gonna meet them both in chapter 3. That will be a dragon and a tiger. And this is based on, first, the 12 zodiac animals, the year you're born, what you are. But in Taoism, there's another saying of 六丁六甲, which means 6 of them are female, 6 of them are male, or 6 are yin and 6 are yang, and they are deities that are based on 地支, which is a form of counting hours and time in traditional Chinese culture. So every year actually has its name with a 天干 and the 地支. The heavenly character and the earthly character put together is one year's name. So for the earthly, you have 12, and these 12 are also for the 12 时辰 of a day, which is every 时辰 equals to 2 hours. For the first chapter, monkey, he is the zodiac animal monkey who's paired up with the 地支 character, Shen. And the second chapter is the zodiac animal dog, which is paired up with the 地支 character, Xu. And then you will come across Long, dragon, in third chapter. He is paired up with the 地支 character, Chen. And then tiger, he is paired up with the 地支 character Yin. They are the 4 of the 12 六丁六甲 deities, and they all belong to 六甲, which is the 6 yang and 6 male, because Shen, Xu, Yin, Chen, they all belong to the yang side, which means probably in the original design of game science, the village that you're gonna get opened up in this chapter called 66村. 66 village is 6丁6甲村, the 6 yang and 6 yin zodiac deities village. Now, at the end of the whole game, you'll get 4, which means there are 8 missing. If the rumor was right that initially they had 11 to 13 chapters, it's very likely in every chapter you're going to open up the option to get access to one of those zodiac deities, and they will give you upgrades, powers, all types of funny things you can do, and that makes me really looking forward to the DLC. For example, you have number 1 is a rat or rodent or mouse. That would be 紫薯. That would be a yang as well. So it would be a male rat who should be in charge of water of the 五行, the Chinese 5 element. And that will make me think maybe you can have a rat who's in charge of a hot spring or something that you can go in and upgrade yourself, so that would be really cool if you can see. And also, if they can expand the 12 zodiac deities fully in DLC, then you'll have 6 female deities. For example, the male wood is represented by the tiger, which wood creates fire, therefore he is the guy who builds all your armors. And then the female would be a rabbit. So there should be a rabbit female deity living in 66 village. If that happens in DLC, it'll be so much more interesting and fun. And because we're gonna come across all of the 4 major ones in Chapter 3, I thought I should mention it before we start to run through the game. So, when we open the 3rd chapter, we see an animation of the little fat Buddha looking around. And in this impressive statue-lined cave, one of them transformed into Destined One, fight the first little Yao Guai and go on his way. And those impressive statues are based on real statues and some of the most famous statues in the game of Black Myth Wukong from early days PV that they went into this temple, Shanxi Yuhuang Temple, to scan these 28 constellation deities to the minute detail and then recreated them digitally for the game. This place you can travel to now is one of the hottest travel spots right now in China due to the popularity of the game. They were made around late Song, early Yuan dynasty. They were all made with clay, and the actual size of them is just of human size. When you go into this temple, they are behind a fence, but they're pretty much your size, and you will be looking at them eye level instead of looking at them that way where they're huge as you see it in the game. And that will create a very different spatial feeling. And those statues' facial expressions are the best thing. They're so well and detailedly done. And even more interestingly, when you see them in a real temple space, they are actually eyeing each other. Their eye lines connect, so they're looking at each other. It's like they're talking. Each constellation deities has an animal symbolizing them, so they're always with their animal. Sometimes it's on their lap, sometimes it's on their hand, they're holding them. And there's even a really cute one where the deity is sitting and looking up at the beam inside the temple, and on the beam is another carving of his pet. So they're literally looking at each other and smiling, and you have to be physically in the space to actually understand why he's looking up and why he's smiling. And the game made them giant and huge and not complete, so it's not all 28. It's selective, like a dozen of them. Still very impressive, but they don't really function exactly the same as they would function in the real space. As you go on your way, you will first encounter many frozen zombies who are in the monk form, barely dressed in anything, frozen on your way. And they are the most common little Yao Guais you will fight. Many of them are completely frozen. You just run through them, they get broken and actually turn into your money. If you read their portraits, it's really sad. For all the new monks who come to the Yellow Brows Thunderclap temple, they will all get given a very thin monk's robe. Yellow Brow will gaslight you and tell you if you are not genuine and candid enough and you don't believe in your beliefs enough, then you will die. But if you truly believe in what I teach you and in Buddha, then you will not die. So what happened? A lot of people died, frozen, literally. First boss you come across is Chikao Mahou, our old friend, because he showed up very early on in one of those early PVs when Game Science was promoting this game. Chikao literally means red buttocks, and Macaque is, well, what he is. And he is the unfortunate general who used to serve under Sun Wukong, and you will come across him 2 more times throughout Chapter 3. After fighting him, you very soon come across a animation where the Xiao Xitian Grid Keeper 土地公 show up. This time he's not a Jinsum looking like old man, but a human head and bird body creature. And if you read his portrait, not a very good character. Somebody who is enthusiastic about fortune telling, and he cheats money out of people's pocket by telling them fortunes. So not a good guy. He will transform you into a bat, and both of you will fly across this beautiful snowy landscape right next to a lake. And he will tell you, go to the lake, and then you'll get something, and obviously that will trigger another boss fight. There's this tiny temple in the middle of the frozen lake that everyone who's from China, who's watched most of the 西游记 stuff when they are growing up as a kid probably can recognize. A reference to the animation of 大闹天宫 where 孙悟空 and Yang Jian, 二郎神 and 孙悟空 are having this fight and competing against each other to see whose transformation is better. There's one moment when 孙悟空 transformed himself into a little temple with 2 eyes, and then he has the tail because he's a monkey and he couldn't hide the tail, so he turned the tail into a pole behind the temple and it looks really out of place. Yang Jian came around and saw this temple and then managed to figure out this is actually the monkey. So this temple with a pole becomes an iconic image that represents Sun Wukong. And the little temple you see in the middle of the lake pretty much looks exactly like how it looks, the design in animation. And this time it doesn't have a pole, but it has a tree that's sticking out. And you will have a fight with the dragon form Cyan Loong on this frozen lake that's absolutely breathtakingly beautiful. It's a sad situation that the dragon used to be on Sun Wukong's side, and now she is fighting against the destined one and being brainwashed by Huang. After you win, very soon you'll find you just started another really difficult part of the game because the animation will make you fall into the lake. And when you wake up, you are in Futujie, the Pagoda realm, the worst part of this chapter because it's completely 阴间 underworld. Most people who play through chapter 3 will say they hate this part. It's extremely dark, depressing. The music makes you feel like you're gonna have palpitation. And every how many seconds you will hear this sound and the color will change, and basically you're under influence of the boss of this zone, and you will lose your health, your eyes will turn red, and the music is just gonna sound even worse. Everything looks even more bleak. And in this part, you will come across a cell that got locked, you cannot get in at first. After you fight one of the 2 bosses in the Pagoda realm, you will be able to open the gates of those sealed cellars, and one of them is where Xiao Zhang Taizi, little Zhang Crown Prince from the original book, is staying in. In a game setting, he is the 3rd prince of the Liusha Fuoguo we have in 2nd chapter, Flowing Sand Kingdom, who left their kingdom to seek Buddha's teaching. Also because he's not happy with his father's political decisions, he unfortunately ended up in Little Thunderclap Temple and got trapped by Yellowbrow. His 4 subordinate generals all got turned into monsters. 2 of them you're gonna fight already in this Pagoda realm. Another one you will fight later, and another one already is dead at this stage. To not make himself also lose mind, the Xiao Zhang Taizi blinded and then deafened himself, but that also made him invalid, so he could only stay in a cell. When you beat the 2 boss who used to be his generals in this Pagoda realm and beat another one in front of the final temple, and then collect the 3rd already dead general's spirit, you get all those 4 spirits, you give it to him, and then he will give you a spearhead where you can use that to create another weapon. It's very sad, but at least the character 3D of this guy looks pretty handsome. I do hope if there's DLC, he gets eventually show up somewhere else and living a better life than what he has now. The dilemma of playing through this part of the game is you really want to shut down the music that shows up every 5 minutes that reduces your health and make you look like hell. But it's only during those moments when that music is ongoing you can find those lantern monsters who have long necks who are walking around, and there are 9 of them in the Pagoda realm. You have to kill all of them so that they will turn into 1 curios you can collect. That actually gives you a lot of attacking power. If you go and beat the big boss at the end of this Pagoda realm, before you kill all 9 of them, they will disappear, and then you will not get that lantern, and you have to wait the Game Plus, the next round. going into third chapter, do it again. And if you read their story in portraits, you probably will feel really bad for them. They used to be just workers who are literally building the temple for Yellow Brow, and then they got murdered and get their head cut off and replaced by lanterns so that they can patrol the place for him. Now you kind of like feel bad about killing them. And when you get to the final boss fight with Miao Yin, the wise voice, which is just a ball, like a golden disco ball that goes around with golden lasers, you fight in this weird looking round chamber. A lot of people have mentioned, if you pay attention to the design of that space, you can see that game designs really understand all the sexual connotations of Huang Mei's powers and his magical sack and his mace. The room that hosts Wise Voice, the two openings that you enter and leave, just look at the shape of it. I don't need to be explicit, you can tell what it is. Also, there are actually two stone bridges that links you to the openings. If you look at it from a side view, you'll realize it's not just a stone bridge. It's a hand that's looking like this. And there are two hands like touching the two openings. You have to sort of go on the hand, go into the opening, and then get out of it from the other end. After getting out of this pagoda realm, you finally go back to the snow-covered human Yangjian, which looks a lot better. And you'll come across a temple called Anshen Si, where you actually are gonna come across Mr. Gourd for the third time in the game, where he's sitting there drinking tea with a ring of fire where nobody can get in. You will fight the Chikao Mahou, the macaque, for the second time. After fighting him, you will be able to have tea with this Gourd man, and he will teach you another trick called Ring of Fire. In the game, when you draw a Ring of Fire, you stay inside, you get better protected. You can also charge up your health and your stamina a lot faster. As you are running around this area, you will come across a big door. If you go in, it will tell you it is the pagoda, not the pagoda realm, but the actual big pagoda. It has a shrine, you can open it. When you first encounter it, it only has a couple of paintings and nothing you can trigger. At the end of the game, before you fight the final boss, you come back to this place, you will open up the secret ending. So here is just to tell you, there's actually a hidden map too in chapter 3. It's just like at the beginning, it's not opened. Then you leave this temple with your new learned magic trick. You go on the turtle island, where basically you are on the back of a huge turtle and you're gonna fight the human form of the Kangjing dragon. You win the fight, and then the symbol that's been stuck in the two mountains gets broken and somebody came out of it, and that's Zhu Bajie, 二师兄, the second student of Tang Seng, probably the best friend of Sun Wukong's during the whole journey to the west. In the game version, I love the fact that they made him so petite. Although his true form is still a big black furred angry boar with red eyes, at least most of the time he stays absolutely adorable. I encourage you when he shows up, right, interact with him and stay with him. And if you stay with him and not do anything, he will start to say, hey, move, why are you still staying here? If you stay longer and not do nothing, he will start to tell you stories about what happened in Journey to the West. Keep annoying him, knocking on him. He will use his 923 to actually hit you, although not causing any damage. It's really cute that when you're running around, he will follow you, and if you turn around, you'll see he's like following with his short legs in the snow. Adorable. And when you're in fight, he will actually help you to recover your health. He will be with us till the end of the game, occasionally disappearing, occasionally becoming our enemies, occasionally helping us. And just when you think, wow, we have such a huge map, maybe we're at the end, no, we're barely at the end yet. After we fought the human form of the dragon, if you've done the two dragons in the two chapters before, then you'll see another dragon right next to it called Qing Bei Long, literally means the cyan back dragon, but in the English version, it's just shortened as the Cyan dragon. You have to find him to get another pearl from Long, and then eventually being able to craft some weapons at the second round of the game. So you have to fight him. And he's one of the 4 dragons in charge of 4 rivers in hiding. In this case, he came across Yellowbrow, and Yellowbrow wants to take him in as his student, and he knows Yellowbrow is really strong. To stalk Yellowbrow, he had a bet with Yellowbrow and saying, I'm gonna sit here 500 years not moving a muscle. If I can get a fish out of my fishing pole in 500 years here, I will be your student. If not, then I won't. Yellowbrow knows he's stalking, but then he also finds this dragon quite interesting, so he allowed him to do it. The Cyan dragon sat down on the beach with a fishing pole that has no hook at the end, and then never moved for 500 years until a Destined One showed up and challenged him and beat him. I feel so bad about these 4 dragons. After fighting the Cyan Dragon, you have 2 ways along the coastline to go. On one end, you will see the skeleton of the snake, which is in the original book. 真武大帝's 2 generals, the snake and the turtle general. So the turtle is the island you're on. The huge one, and the snake is already dead. When you touch on the skeleton of the snake, you will have this interaction happening, and the turtle will start to cry, and its tears is one of your drink soaks that you can collect. Then you'll come across a bat called Wu Liangfu at the body of the snake. You win the fight, but you don't necessarily kill him. He will fly away. Don't worry. Just because you've already fought him, by the end of this chapter, you will get his spirit. And then on the other end of this island, you see another dragon in the water, the Zodiac dragon Chen Loong, who will become responsible for growing all the seeds you've collected so that you can make unlimited supplies of medication at Xugou's furnace. And they're all gonna end up in one place, so it makes it easy for you. He's the old dragon with a very long neck. You fight him pretty easy, and when you win, he will say, "Oh, I cannot be a deity, and now I get treated so badly by a little monkey. I might as well just die. I'm so old." And if you link that to Shenhou's complaint in the first chapter when he says, "I cannot go back to the heavenly palace," you kind of piece the story together, which is these Zodiac deities used to be good friends of Sun Wukong's, and they used to help Sun Wukong. Therefore, at the end of Sun Wukong's death, they all get banished from heavenly court. So they're all not deities anymore, and they all live in the secret hiding place of the scroll. So the dragon will cry and complain, and saying he will need to eat Xu Dog's medicine. So you travel by the shrine back to chapter 2 and get a medication from the dog and give it to the dragon. The dragon will literally chuck it away, and 1 second after that start to laugh and say, "Oh, you're a good boy, so now I'm gonna give you something." He will give you a painting scroll, and from then on till the end of the game, you can go into the painting at any shrine to meet all 4 Zodiac animals to upgrade your armor, grow your seed so you get plants so that you can make your medication at the dog's place, and then upgrade your gourd and your wine with the monkey. So it's absolutely adorable. You can also challenge the tiger that you're gonna upgrade your armor with. He's one of the best fighters in the whole game. He's not a boss, he's not your enemy, but if you win a fight with him, he will allow you to transform into him during the fight, which is really cool to do. It's gonna be a hard battle if you're not good at playing RPG like I am. I think it took me like 2-3 hours to get through the fight with him and eventually beat him and get the transformation, but it's totally worth it. Right at the location you meet Chen Loong, there's a temple. You go in the temple, you'll see a guy getting attacked by 3 bats. You beat those bats, you save this guy, and this guy will tell you he's looking for a melon field. And that's the first time you'll meet him. And he is the Yangjian general that got placed in each chapter. First chapter is the white snake, second chapter is the yellow-robed boar, and then the third one is this guy. So you have run across this island, one end, the other end. If you go to the middle part, you will go on a quite meandering up the mountain way and then get to a little pavilion where you meet baby version of Maitreya Buddha again. You have a conversation, you go pay respect to 4 different Maitreya Buddha statues that allows a magical hidden Buddha statue to show up in the mountain. You go up there and you will be able to get to the next part. Also, fighting the first disciple of Huang Yellowbrow. Remember I told you he had 4 disciples who are basically mirroring Jingchanzi Tang Seng's 4 students. 不空, 不能, 不进, 不白. You first come across 不白. It's translated as non-white. And it's really funny for everybody who wants to do the diversity joke on Black Myth Wukong. When they see that, they will say, "Oh, you even have a character called non-white, you know, like how much more diverse you want to be." But it's literally just a translation because Chinese name is 不白. 不 means no, 白 means white. And because Huang Mei wants to flip everything, Tang Seng and Jing Chanzi does, therefore he named all his students in the flipped version of Tang Seng's students. And this guy, if you read his portrait, he used to be an opera singer in the performing troupe. And he's ugly, so he always plays the clown, where he paints his face white. And he hated it. He wants to be the lead role, but nobody believed he could play it. So one day he murdered the lead role and peeled his face off, put that guy's face on his own face, and then played the lead role on stage and then scared everybody off. And he eventually ended up in Thunderclap Temple. Huang Mei actually really likes him, took him in as his student. You'll fight him twice, and you will win. He's not that hard, but he's annoying. And in this chapter, you will come across the Baboon that you've seen in the first chapter. And I will not talk about her story. I think it's her until the end. By the last chapter, you will see her for the last time, and it's a great performance, and I find her story so sad. After you've done everything, you slide down a snowy slope and you end up in Jilegu, Valley of Ecstasy map, and it's the last but one big map. And there are many parts of this map you take a long time to explore. There are 3 things you need to do around this part of the map if you want to do the full collection thing. First is find the 3rd frog. Right around the shrine, hidden in a crack of a rock, you will also see on a dead body right next to a gate, there is the white fox scarf at the end of chapter 2 in the animation, and she will give you the ability temporarily in this part of the game to transform into her so you can run faster along the map. And you have to be able to trigger that fox form at the end of this chapter to fight Wukong, student of Huang Mei, the scholar who killed the fox. You would also need to come across the guy in the hat you came across not so long ago, saved him from the bats. You'll see him almost freezing to death, and you draw a ring of fire that you just learned to save him. That's the 2nd time you'll come across him. And you go and jump off a cliff. You'll see him for the 3rd time, and this time he will show his true color. He is the goat deity who is under Shen Yang Jian, and he is here to test if you qualify. You'll have a fight with him, and when you win, he will just draw a Doctor Strange circle, jump into it and disappear. After that, the melon field will show up, and then the little Buddha, Maitreya Buddha, will show up, and then using the watermelon juice right in your hand and give you a new magic, 禁字法, the forbid, the one I've just talked about in the original novel part, what it means and what it could do. In the game, it just binds all the spells that you cannot use now. Your physical basic hit with your staff will increase in its damage, so it's another way of fighting certain bosses who don't really take spells very well. During this part of the map, you can also find a guy who got his hands tied on his back, kneeling in the snowfield. He is another student called 不能 of Huang Mei, and he argues with Huang Mei all the time, and he actually accuses Huang Mei of cutting shortcuts, not working hard, and not do things properly. Seemingly you can do everything, but you can never do it too well. So Huang Mei got really angry and punished him, making him kneeling in the snow. He's a very hard to fight guy. He's extremely fast, and his simple physical punches and kicks are really, really powerful and strong. Around this part of the map, you can fight a lot of little 妖怪, and they will randomly drop things, curios. If you want to complete the full collection of all curios, you have to actually spend quite a bit of time here to fight all kinds of people to see if they give you what you want. And also around this area, you'll find the dead body of the 3rd general of the Zhang Taizi, Zhang, Crown Prince. He's already dead. He's killed by Huang Mei early on. You don't have to fight him. His spirit literally was just there. You interact, you absorb him. Then when everything else is done, you finally arrive at Little Thunderclap Temple, Xiao Si, the new one built by Huang Mei. And it's a huge temple. At the door is the 4th general under Little Zhang, Crown Prince, who has his head cut off. Looks really scary, but easy to fight. He's one of the easiest bosses in the whole game. You get through him, you enter the temple, and the temple just like has, 2 shrines? And you have one end a shrine, the other end another shrine, in between nothing. So if you die in the middle, you have to go back, and I hate this part of the map. It's too big. And the important people to fight in this zone is 1, the 海上僧, collectible version of the weirdo who has like long tentacles. That's really disgusting and not easy to fight. But when you have him as your transformation, it's pretty cool at freezing your enemies. You will find the other 2 students. One is called 不救, easy to fight. Then the other one you have to fight is the jerk at the end of the 2nd chapter, the guy who killed the fox. You eventually arrive at the temple, you transform yourself back into the fox, he will see you and trigger animation, and you have the fight, and when you kill him, you feel so good. Because it's revenge against the bad guy for the fox. After you've done that, you actually can return to where you found fox first, talk to her, and then you will lose the fox transformation but get a curio from her fur, and her story ends. And if you read her story, it's such a sad story. She's just a really cute fox who never ate any humans, never did anything wrong, tried really hard to cultivate and transform into a human. And then one day, like really close to what she can do, she get hurt by a trap and then get saved by the scholar. But overnight, the scholar had a dream and decided to murder the fox. So unfair. Also, around where you fight the bad monk who killed the fox, you will also find Mr. Horse for the third time. I know, so much hidden stuff in this game. First chapter, second chapter, if you found this horse, then the third chapter he will show up. If you haven't, that's gonna be a problem. Talk to him until all the conversation exhausts, and you'll see him again in fourth chapter. So that just makes sure you don't lose the link. All those things done, go to the final temple where you have a shrine right outside of it, so you can fix all the things and make sure all the skill points are put in the right place. And you go in and fight Yellow Brow. He show up first as the baby Buddha version dressed in yellow. And this is actually a really well designed boss fight. First stage, you fight with him. Then he goes to the second stage and you end up in his bag where you fight with Bajie for the last time, the Macaque. When you win the fight with him, you temporarily get forced transformed into him and running through all the little statues of that temple. And then basically both of you shrunk to a figurine size and fight each other as the third stage of this fight. It's a pretty well designed, exciting sequence, and it's a 3 fights put in one thing. Probably the most performance heavy boss fight in the whole game. The temple that you see, the little figurines alongside where you enter this temple that looks so magnificent, and they designed a sequence so that you can actually run through the whole place when you shrunk down to a small size and see how glorious it is. It's based on a real temple in China called Xixian, Xiao Xitian, Little Western Heaven in Xixian. It's another super hot travel spot now. One of the places I really want to go after I've played the game, and little pieces are constantly falling off that place because there are so many. I feel really grateful that the game actually went in and then scanned things and recreated it. So at least we have a digital copy. After you win this fight with Huang, he will show up on the frozen lake, escaping and eventually falling in. And then the real Maitreya Buddha is going to show up. And the relic comes out of the water. It turns into a goldfish with 10 tails. You will hear Bajie talking to Maitreya Buddha. First time you let Huang run away, which is in the Xiao, right? I understand that could happen. Now he's run away for the second time and did all this, and you still tell me it's accident? Even a pig wouldn't believe that. The baby Maitreya Buddha laughed and didn't say anything, so I feel clearly he knows. By the end of the game, you kind of can tell he and Shen were in on the whole thing, and they are planning with the Gourd Man to get what they want, and they're kind of on your Destined One and Sun Wukong's side. As for the fish, why it represents the nose, the sense of smell, the relic, maybe it's something to do with the fact that at the end of this chapter, the animation is called P, fart. And for this fish, in Shanghai Jing, it is said this fish is called He Luo Yu, a magical fish that has 1 head and 10 bodies. And when you eat the flesh of this fish, it will cure any kind of cyst you have on your body. So it's basically anti-inflammatory. And the other thing that's really funny in the record of this magical fish is its meat can make you not fart. Literally, you eat the flesh of this fish and you don't fart. And fart is to do with smell. And in Chinese, the colloquial term of 放屁, 你放屁, you are farting. It's not saying you're farting, it's saying you're talking about nonsense. So you can say that everything Huang Mei advocates is nonsense. That's why the fish and the fart and sense of smell, the relic, gets linked in chapter 3 at the end. Now we've run through the whole game. I think I've covered everything. Let's quickly talk about the ending animation. It's very impressive animation, Studio Ghibli, Miyazaki kind of style. It's talking about a soft shell turtle who looks absolutely horrendous and huge and weird. One day got fished up by a fishing village. This ugly thing seems to have magical power. Its nails turns into medicine to cure people's disease. Any wound he has will not bleed blood, but bleed money, gold, pearls, gemstones. So suddenly, this unlimited source of money showed up on their shore. Everybody started to pray to this turtle deity, gave him a temple, gave him a shrine, gave him offerings. And every now and then they will have this ceremony where people go to this magical turtle, and the turtle will hurt himself, cut himself open for a bit, and then have pearls dropping out of it. One day, among one of those ceremonies, there's one guy who went crazy. He's like in trance. He grabbed a knife and started to stab this turtle, and the turtle bled so much money. And that really started to trigger everybody on site. Suddenly, people all went crazy, tear this turtle into pieces, and then the scene cuts. Maybe not so long after, the whole village is in devastation. I guess people got money, probably spent the money, and then they forgot that they actually need to grow food and go fishing and have their life sustainably happening. It actually destroyed everybody, and the village now is like a wasteland. Nobody is there, and completely rotten leftover of this turtle is sitting on the beach. And you see a monk coming, and the monk is Jing Chanzi. Before Tang Seng's reincarnation, the real form of him as a student of the Buddha. And he calls to the turtle, who is Huang Mei, Yellowbrow. Jing Chanzi talked to Huang Mei very sarcastically, saying, 师兄, which literally means elder brother in the same sect. But this is a common way in Buddhism for people who are Buddhists to call each other, like among monks, for example, call each other 师兄, 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 like everybody's 师兄. It's a bit confusing. Doesn't have to mean that you are under the same teacher, because one is actually under Maitreya Buddha and the other is under the Sakyamuni Buddha. Jing Chanzi called him and saying, "You're having fun, hey? To win the bet, this is what you did again." And the soft turtle replied, "To win a debate, if we don't get to the end of it, what's the point of even having a debate?" What has happened with this soft shell turtle and the villagers are basically Huang Mei's way of entrapment. He had a debate probably up there with other Buddhists about whether human nature is naturally good or bad, or can people ever outrun their greed. And his argument is, no, you cannot trust human nature. Humans will always do what I know they will do, which is they cannot control their greed. They will let it eat them. He transformed himself into this magical turtle that ended up on the shore of this village, and he basically tricked all the villagers with his magic and proved again with his own murder that you cannot trust in this part of human nature. You cannot control it. Everybody is ultimately greedy. Jing Chanzi accused him, 导果为因, as what he's doing is intentionally trigger human nature's dark side to prove that human nature has a dark side. So that ends the third chapter. That leaves some space for you to contemplate and think. And the quality of the animation is great. The music is epic, and it's the theme music of this game, which gets repeated in a gazillion forms. And then they are singing it in the animation in the style, particularly the beginning part. It's the 侗族大歌, a type of Chinese minority ethnic groups, traditional singing that's, I think, also intangible heritage. And it's very unique. It's the only type of ethnic music in China, purely just performed by human voices and in a huge number, only performed by many people singing it together. And it has that ancient ceremonial shamanic quality, rawness of that sound, and it's perfectly fitting for this part of the game. And that should be the end of this video, the third chapter of Black Myth Wukong. We have 3 more chapters to go, and arguably the last chapter really has nothing happening, so technically we have 2 more important chapters to go. I highly appreciate your patience of sitting through those long videos, and I'll do my best to finish this whole series I have on Black Myth Wukong. Thank you for watching Avenue X. I'll see you in my next video. Meanwhile, live long and happy gameplay.